Hi, it's Nina Merle, speech language pathologist, and in today's parent coaching video, I want to talk about something a little different than language or communication, but it is related to speech. And this is an idea that a lot of parents face with their kids, that they feel like they want to put everything in their mouth. Now, what I want to say to that is that that's a natural developmental process and stage that's actually necessary for exploring all of the movement and the sensations in the mouth to help us then develop speech. So, a very natural way to encourage this mouth exploration is through food. Now, yes, if your child is trying to put toys in the mouth, there's certain tools out there that you can use as a replacement. There's chewy tubes or different things that can go in the mouth so they can get that pressure on their jaw and not chewing on toys or their finger. But food, like I said, is a really natural way to promote mouth exploration so that then they can wake up a lot of those senses and awareness, and then we can see if we can get some more sounds incorporated in that, and that your child will be less interested in putting everything in his or her mouth right after that. So one of the ways to do this is thinking about what kind of foods and snacks are we giving to our kids. Now let me show two very common snacks here. I have some fish crackers, and I have just some potato chips. Now what happens with kids when we have very small bite-sized snacks is that in this, we're not using the full range, we're not promoting a lot of different movements in our mouth, because a lot of times kids will bite with the front teeth, especially if it's hard and chewy, crunchy, or they'll stick it on the side, or they'll just stick the whole thing in, and they'll usually mash. Excuse me for talking. But the idea is that they're just using their tongue and mashing and swallowing, and maybe not even using their teeth to chew. Now, a lot of this sticking things in their mouth is important to develop their chewing skills. If I just have a chip and just use the teeth, it becomes really soft, and I can just use my tongue again to mash and swallow. And I don't really have to chew that much. Okay, so how do we promote this skill of full mouth, full teeth, tongue movement, and getting this nice biting rotary pattern that we see? Is through stick-like objects. The finger works really well because it can get back in there. Usually their teeth are itchy, or they just want some pressure on it. So I have a plate, a very interesting combination plate here of different objects, but I want to talk about how we could use each of these. Okay, so one common snack, maybe if you're familiar, you give your child a piece of bread. Instead of giving your child the full piece of bread and they can bite, and they're going to take a small little bite like this, or already breaking it up into bite-sized pieces for your child, and that whole thing goes in the mouth and they don't really have to work at it, we can cut the toast or bread into strips. And I've seen people do this even with like a grilled cheese sandwich, and then they have strips of grilled cheese. So now I have a strip of bread, and this is going to be, you can bite the tip off, but it's a lot easier to put the whole thing in and get on the teeth line here to promote some chewing and exploration. Okay, another stick object are some different vegetables. I really like celery. You can cut it in half if you want it a little thinner. But celery is really great because there's a little bit of juice to it, but because of all of the strings and the fibers, it doesn't really break apart. Yes, you can bite a piece off with your front teeth, but if you're using your teeth in your jaw and you can get it back in here, kind of like a toothbrush, and you're biting on it, doesn't really fall apart. And if you're worried about your child taking off a piece, this one stays together really nicely. Carrots are also really great for this. I only have a baby carrot right now, which doesn't really work because, I mean, it could work a little bit. You can get back here and bite on it. I like the longer carrots just because they're so long. Carrots are a little tricky. You got to make sure they don't bite the tip off, because then you have a hard piece floating around in their mouth. You don't want to have them choke on it. But if they're not using their jaw strength that strongly, this is a really good one to play and move around the mouth with a food item as opposed to it being a non-food item like a chewy tube or a toothbrush. If your child is able to manage some small pieces, you can use other vegetables like cucumber slices. Here I have a pepper slice. These are also really great. They go all the way back. They can chew on it. They can move it around. Good tongue movement. If you eat meat at home, or I'm sure there's some non-meat vegetarian options, but jerkies, I have here like a beef stick, is also great. It's a natural food item that has that same shape as like a finger that we can get in there to promote movement and waking up the mouth. Now this beef jerky here is actually pretty soft and it can break off really easily. They make those jerkies that are really dry and really hard, and you could be chewing on those for a while and they're not going to break off. That's a really nice one that's also safer. So you can get the flavor, or you can get the waking up of the senses and the taste buds without the risk or the concern of something falling off and then they can't manage that. Now, related to that, there are some products that they make in which they have a mesh bag or silicone bag or something that you put food in for your child to explore without the concern that they're going to choke on it. And what I say to that is that that's actually really confusing, because those textures aren't textures that we put in our mouths when we eat. Our spoon is a hard plastic or metal, and then you take it out. So children are familiar with the spoon texture, but we're not biting on that. But to bite on a silicone or bite on a mesh here to get juices out of like a berry or something, it doesn't developmentally go with what's natural in our mouth sequencing series, according to just how we're going to acquire those skills naturally. So these are just some ideas of how you can use food to promote mouth awareness, exploration, movement. And in this case, you might see afterwards that your child might be more verbal or vocal after eating because they're doing different things and they might be sitting there making different sounds. That's great. Now can we continue to practice those sounds because they woke everything up? Now it's all really active. Let's take advantage of that, which is related to speech. Okay, so that's all for today. Gave you some food ideas for waking up the mouth. I hope you find some of these helpful, and I'll see you next time. Bye.